Okay, guys, here's the thing. I want to tell you the story of creation, but there's a lot of debate about this, so before I begin the biblical account, I'd like to go over a few other versions. There are basically two versions that don't take the biblical account into account. One is what I call the team approach. Basically, there's a bunch of gods, and each one made a different aspect of creation, and those parts of creation somehow all work together, even though all those gods are constantly fighting each other. This begs the question, who made the gods? The Greeks, and I believe the Romans, believed that the gods were made by the Titans, who the gods then killed, if I am remembering it correctly. However, this begs the question, who made the Titans? The Titans were obviously not eternal because they were destroyed, so they had an end. So how did they begin? The other version that does not take the biblical account into account is the one you will probably hear most often, and the one that people will present while laughing at you for believing in the biblical account. I call this the whoops explanation. The idea is that all these elements were floating around in space, and they somehow came together and formed planets, and on our particular planet they somehow came together and formed vegetables and single-celled animals, and then they adapted and became more complex, and all of this took a long time, but it begs the question, who made space? Who made the elements to begin with? Where did they come from? In answer to this, some people will say that aliens from another planet came and deposited the basic ingredients for our planet, and they're still out there somewhere, and we can't find them, or they cease to exist somehow, but that still begs the question, who made that planet? Who made the aliens? How did they come about? There has to be a beginning, or your beginning story just doesn't make sense. The difference with the biblical account is that we start with a self-existent eternal God. Nobody made him. He always existed and always will exist. He exists outside of our time-space continuum. Therefore, there is no question as to his origins. I suppose someone could say that the elements of which the universe was made were eternal and self-existent, but believing that stuff just springs into its own existence on its own, to me, takes a lot more faith based on no evidence than believing that somebody created them. The biblical account does not go into the creation of the whole universe. It focuses on the creation of Earth, which makes sense since it was written to Earthlings. There are also two theories that work from the biblical account but diverge from it. The first is called deism, and that says that God created everything, just like it says in the scriptures, and then he let go. That he has not been involved in human history at all. The second of the theories that works within the framework of the biblical account is the theory that the days in the creation story are metaphorical days. That the story is literal when it talks about what he created and what order he created everything in, but slips into figurative when it talks about the duration of time in which he did it. This doesn't really fit with the other passages of the Bible, which are either literal or figurative. Even in other writings, you don't switch from a literal to figurative genre within the same phrase. You may use a figure of speech within literal description or admonishment, but you don't just throw in one word here and there that is supposed to be taken figuratively, while everything else is to be taken literally. Those people don't have as much problem with people believing in creation literally as the people who deny the authenticity of the Bible altogether.